welcome to the Catching Out podcast and a very special version of it. Although all of our podcasts are special, this one we are splitting into multiple episodes, so you have my lovely voice to intro you into this. We will be doing a cloth version, we'll be doing a foam version, but first of all we're going into cloth, and because we like to talk so much, we have split this into 2 episodes as well. So in the first half we'll be talking about dodgy news and the men's cloth competition, and in the second episode that will be in your feeds in a week or so will be the mixed and women's section, and then after that we'll get into foam as well. No idea how many episodes that will be, so keep an eye out. Sure, there'll be lots to come, and yeah, give us a subscribe. But now let's get on with the episode. Welcome to Catching Out Pod. Yeah, once again the intro graphics are yet again incorrect, as
Blame Nick.
yeah. Yep. I mean, wow, that was like, what, less than 20 seconds in? We're already blaming me.
Yeah, that's slow. That's slow for me. I'll go for under 10 seconds next time.
Yeah. Expect a lot of Nick slander today. Colm is setting the bar high from the beginning.
Sassy.
But of course, the reason it's wrong is we are once again joined by our host, Emily Busby.
Hey.
Yeah, so today we're going to be talking, or we're going to be doing 2 podcasts, and this is probably the first, maybe the second, depending on your preference, on the World Championships. Our takes on what happened, our reviews, our thoughts, just talking about dodgeball, really, isn't it? So this one is going to be about cloth, and we're going to go through from men's to mixed to women's. Try and cover a bit of the group stages, bit of the knockouts, bit of the finals, and as always, starting off with dodgy news. Woo, yeah, we still don't have a jingle for that. It really sucks. Yeah, so obviously World Champs happened.
What?
But
Somebody should have told me.
yeah,
I mean, you were mostly drunk, so.
Right, yeah, true.
we have the text to prove it. Yeah, that was enjoyable. And but a little bit closer to home for those of us that are, or those that are joining for the first time who've not come across us before. We're all British based.
That's gonna. You were about to have an argument there.
Based.
Yeah. You saved it. The stutter is where we nearly fell out.
Yeah, it's okay. I mean, you know, yeah. So all of us on the pod currently are British based. Sorry, Zoe. But yeah, so we do have some news that came up very recently, from a British perspective, about British Dodgeball TV. I say news, it is a 20-second video clip of
8 seconds.
Yeah.
You're being generous, sir.
some stock animation with BDTV clipped on front of it.
Yeah, it's a weird one, isn't it?
Yeah. What I'd love
remember what it
if it
said.
just ends up being like a Twitch channel for British Dodgeball. Like Dodgeball TV, and it's just BDTV.
Would be a bad idea, to be fair.
Or like rebranding the British Dodgeball YouTube.
Yeah.
That also kind of makes sense, and potentially it would actually be quite helpful for them if they had a section where it's like all their resources for helping clubs and junior resources and stuff, and then another section for actual live events. That actually would make a lot more sense than what I think it is.
Well, I think what we all think it is, because it's what they announced like a year or 2 ago, wasn't it? Which is,
oh, I'm not crazy. This was talked about a while ago. Right?
It was brought up.
Yeah.
That there would be a I guess semi-professional streaming
Subscription
service.
What?
Behind a paywall.
It's like it's essentially Netflix for dodgeball, right? Where it's going to be all the BD live streamed events and recording of matches and stuff, where it's all posted.
Yep.
I think that's what it said on the trailer, right? I'm trying to actually get the trailer up.
I didn't think the trailer said anything, did it?
It,
Thought
It
was
said
just
like
the-
live stream events and
Right.
it had like a couple
highlights.
of like things.
Yeah.
Match highlights. That was the one.
Yeah.
Ah, yes.
Event live streams, all British dodgeball content, and that's it. Other
So
than that,
they
it's a
may
movie
very
logo.
well be they may very well be the first people to ever to do dodgeball highlights, because no one does have dodgeball highlights. They just stick the whole freaking thing up and go for it. Because no one's really worked out how to do highlights yet for dodgeball. I don't think.
Well, BD've tried a couple of times.
Have they?
They've done it for a few of the British champs matches, right?
Yeah, because Matt did them for them, didn't he? Because they.
Wow.
Yeah,
I
Matt's
missed
done a
this.
few. Matt's done a few. Where he breaks down some of the like open finals and stuff like that.
Yeah, he did it for the British champs.
There were ones that were on
but
his.
I feel like British Dodgeball did one as well this year. For I want to say it was Meteors versus Ballyhackmore.
I missed that.
Let me find it.
Clearly,
I mean, that was British champs, but unless
Yeah.
twice.
So they did it. They did it for the finals of the men's and women's finals.
Oh.
So there's like a 12 and 30-minute video for each of them.
We'll have to go give that a watch and see how it went. Because I think I like personal thoughts are it's very difficult to do, like get the context of like what's going on in a match, because something might be really cool, but if it means that the set ends and you don't win the set, then it's kind of like an irrelevant highlight. It's just a cool thing to watch.
Yeah.
Whereas a very boring like a hit which resulted in a set win, which was like the crux of the match, that gave them like the 2-set lead for the rest of the match, that would be quite an important point. But yeah, don't know. Anyway, that's literally the only point on our agenda for dodgy news. I guess other things are British foam is like opens and stuff are happening again.
Just Foam League.
Just foam league, okay.
Yeah.
Just foam league.
Well, I guess
not
there's opens next weekend.
Yep.
It's still not officially BD, right?
No, it's not.
No,
Yeah,
not
yeah,
the foam. Just
Unfortunately, no.
British
Dodgeball endorsed foam, despite the fact that all of the home nations except Scotland played foam at Worlds.
Yeah, true.
Yeah.
Yeah, very true.
Oh, and yes, Northern Ireland. I forget about them because they're across the ocean.
Whoa. But you remembered Ireland.
They're not a home nation. They're not part of us. They're separate.
They are the home nation.
So, okay, so you're thinking about the OG kingdom of England and Wales.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I guess, foam, nothing really going on in Euros at the moment. We've got, CECs is coming up. That's next month, isn't it? In Prague?
Sure.
It's in Czechia. It's in Czechia, or Czech Republic.
I believe you.
I mean, certain people are gonna like call us out if we don't mention CECs. So, for the non-European, that is the Cloth Regional Championships, European Championships for the Central region of Europe. So it is one of the biggest ones, I think, because we used to just have Central European Championships and Northern European Championships. Now we have Western, Northern, and Central, with the hopes of creating an Eastern one day. So yeah, I think the Central one's pretty big. It's got some of the bigger countries in like from Europe. So you got Italy, Switzerland, Austria, Czechia, Hungary. No, Hungary would be in Eastern. Don't know if they get an invite to Central, because there is no.
You would
Eastern.
assume so, that everyone would get to go to one.
Yeah, I imagine so. Anyway, so that's happening.
It's the 30th November, Nick.
Okay, 2 months' time.
Yeah.
And it's in Ostrava. So there must be a lot of running there. Oh, come on, that was good. That was good.
I died a little bit there.
I deserved a better reaction than that.
Oh god.
That was poor.
I need a runner in this fucking podcast right now.
Yeah, I don't do running.
I barely do running, if I can even call it that.
Yeah. But anyway, to what we're here to talk about, Worlds.
Yeah.
It's not. This isn't a pod about puns. What?
No. No. Unfortunately, catching out isn't a pun. It's just something that happens. and happened a lot in in
Not
Graz,
Aussie egg.
not
That
Aussie
was a while
egg, in Graz. Um, so
Right,
yeah,
that's your one.
cool. Yeah.
Well, yeah, particularly seeing as they changed the rule for cloth as well, that you're not out until the ball hits the floor.
Oh, that was chaos.
I could never get used to that. Whenever I was doing that in training to help like Brew and Mackie and stuff, like I could not get used to that rule at all.
Yeah, I wonder whether
Roughing
they'll
it
keep
is so
it in.
difficult as well.
Yeah, I don't. I think I saw a few times where they didn't do it. They didn't ref it correctly because I think they just forgot that it was a thing in cloth as well.
To be honest, I could forgive it. I think it's a really difficult rule.
It's another one from foam, isn't it? Right? Like
yes,
and it's
It's
another
still,
one.
it's same in foam. I think it's very difficult to referee.
Yeah, I think it's harder in cloth because the balls can ping up in the air for much longer. But yeah, I think it will go just like the rebound catch one went eventually.
Yeah.
I know there's been changes in EDF rules already to try and like align rules better with foam and
WDBF.
Yeah.
well, no, there was a request to do it WDBF, but it didn't change in time. I think before Worlds they didn't think it was fair to change it from what I heard. So last minute. So
Right, so it's fair enough because a lot of people would have been training based off of the rule set beforehand.
Yeah, I mean, based off what happened in Canada.
Yeah, they did like the last official review of the rules in March because they wanted to have like 6 months. Is that 6 months? But a period of time. Five months, yeah, so that people could train without them making any changes. Which is good.
A smart thing to do, yeah.
Yeah.
I'd agree.
Bravo, WDBF. We love that.
But we'll have a conversation about the rule sets properly on a month that dodgeball is quite quiet.
Yeah,
we could probably spend 2 hours talking about rule set changes that we'd love to see implemented.
And
yeah.
the people want it. They love really finicky points to do with really tiny rules.
Yeah, Zoe and Nick mentioned it the last time we reviewed the World Championships, and I remember a bunch of message requests coming not long after the podcast came out.
Yeah, I think from some of the EDF podcasts that Emily, you and I have done, like some of the feedback we've had from people is they want to know like our thoughts and things like that, like just to have the discussion out there. So starting with the easy one, finger blocking.
Yeah, get rid of it.
Right, Nick. Remember I said they were going to do another podcast, right?
That just come under the second one.
Yeah, that's fair. But we were going to talk in this next topic was we were going to talk about our experiences viewing, and one thing I did want to bring up as viewing. So for me, like as a spectator, that's all I was there for, and a bit of drinking because who doesn't have a bit of fun while they're watching dodgeball? I went out with the goal to try and open my eyes to foam. I think I successfully did that in terms of like seeing what it was like, and I think the big takeaway for me was it's just dodgeball at the end of the day. Like you like the core principles of how you watch it. In the same way, when you watch tennis, you go left to right, left to right. Like in dodgeball, there is that way of like you kind of can predict where the action's going to go after you've watched it, whether you watch cloth or foam. You kind of still know where to look. You just need to have watched dodgeball for a bit. So it wasn't that bad. There were like maybe 2 or 3 times a match where there's like, what the hell just happened there? I don't know the rules. What's the rules difference? Which is maybe a little too frequent for, to be like comfortable with the like watching it as a spectator. But all in all, I think it was perfectly fine. And the whole experience of being a spectator was fantastic. It was a good laugh, and there were some cracking games which we'll get on to.
Yeah, from the at home viewing experience, there were some excellent commentators who I want to give a huge shout out to Brew especially, who treated every viewer as if they'd never watched dodgeball before and broke it down really, really well. It actually made it a quite more enjoyable experience for even myself at times. And some of the commentators on the foam as well helped explain a lot of stuff to me as things went along.
Give a shout to Terry.
I wish I knew the names because there was one girl in particular who I think it was the mixed foam. I think she took over in the second half, and she was really, really good. I do apologize, I can't remember any of their names. I've speed run so much dodgeball these past couple of days.
Whilst in Edinburgh getting drunk, you were meant to remember every single detail from the stream.
I watched it. I don't remember it.
This is why we don't drink and watch.
Right, we're learning. This is a learning experience.
It's only our second time doing this.
No, the setups were that the commentators on, especially for the finals. It was really good to watch along. It was great to have a couple of extra courts if you wanted even more dodgeball, and made it as accessible as possible. And it was great to see, because my one concern was a lot of it wasn't recorded or anything, and it was going to be lost footage essentially. But I've been seeing on the YouTube that they've been posting ridiculous amounts of footage and chopping it up and making it so that people can easily find their footage to go back and watch, which is amazing. Huge shout out to the team involved in getting all that done. So yeah, as a viewer from back home, it was probably as good of a setup as you could have expected for such a massive tournament. Like, it is crazy. Like, what was it, 12 courts overall? Eight in one hole and 4 in another?
Five in the other court.
5 in another? God, 13 courts.
So it was like 4 for the first 2 days, and then magically a 5th court just appeared at that venue. And I was like, I didn't even know this door went anywhere, and now it's got people playing dodgeball in it.
It was
genuinely... WDA and just use concrete outside.
it was genuinely like... It was genuinely like Narnia, because to get to court 4 and 5 in the blue box, you had to go through a changing room. So like you'd be like, oh, it's a changing room, and then you walk through and it's like, this is a sports hall. Okay. Oh, there's a court. Oh shit, I just got hit by a ball. Like
yeah. Although, to be honest, if you are a player that struggled with sensory overload, great place to play, because it's really quiet, because you can't fit any spectators in there.
Oh wow, no. In the knockouts, I will tell you now, the French found a way. Like, it was like
they bring a crowd, to be fair.
It's like kind of gymnasium. They had to be fair to them, they did have nets at the back to make sure there was no like rebound or anything different. The walls were still on the side. There was about 1.5 meters between, maybe even 2. I think it's about 1.5 meters between the sides of the walls. But like, you walk in on one side and it's just plain wall on that side. Everyone sat behind the nets and towards the side of the wall. Then on the other side, again, side of the wall, and then there was like probably about chest height, there was a windowsill. When I say windowsill, this windowsill and the wall must have been about, like, again, 1.5 meters deep. So like, everyone was just sitting in the windows, like with the windows open, just like watching in from there, which was good fun. Made for a good atmosphere on very late games on Thursday night.
God, that was such a long tournament, though, wasn't it?
Yeah. The other thing as well was, like, when I turned up on the first day, like, I turned up halfway through, and it just felt like pure chaos. Like, there was, the one piece of criticism I'd have, which is hardly a criticism, is if you wanted it to be more spectator friendly, there was no like information point, if that makes sense. Like, there was a desk which sold merch and stuff, but to be honest, it was selling merch. It wasn't really telling you, oh, this is what's going on or whatever. You just sort of had to like walk in and find people who knew vaguely what was going on, and then find this website that everything was on, and then it would explain what you're looking at. Whereas,
would have been really cool if they had like a TV with the scored website up, with
that
all
would
the courts, live courts.
Fantastic.
That would have been a good idea.
Yeah.
I don't know like what it was like in terms of knowing which court was what for spectators. I don't know how that was kind of set up. Oh, next face says it all.
Well,
for audio listeners, he was like, please don't ask me that question.
At the main venue, they put up a really nice map, and it told you like where all the courts were, cool. Except the map was backwards. So there was one point where Catherine was like, oh, I need this thing from my bag. Can you go and get it? So I just finished playing. Literally had got off the court, went up the one set of stairs that there were in venue 1, ran all the way around to where the England stuff was, got what I needed, looked at the map and was like, Catherine's on this court, cool. Didn't think any more of it, ran down, got there, and I was like, this is England cloth. This is not England foam. So then I had to, like, go back upstairs to, like, then look down to figure out which court she was on, and then go back down again and give her a thing, at which point I was actually dead.
It was worse on the Thursday because I think the court naming changed halfway through the day because
yes.
there was because it related to how many streams they had, didn't they? So because I think they managed to get more courts streaming at the end. So
no. So what they did is that they took all the streaming from the blue box.
Yeah, and put it into.
And they put it in the main court. Well, they had 2 more commentated courts. Yeah, but they had to be, for reasons, the middle ones.
Yeah, so I think when they were recording, it had to be the 2 middle ones recording to begin with, and then when they got the 2 extra courts, they did one side where they did all 4, and they still did 2 on the other, and then the two corner ones were not recorded, and that was kind of chaos because it went like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and it was just like I got a picture of it somewhere, and it was just one of those things where I got sent it and then looked at what matches were on. I was like, nah, this is wrong. Like, this is straight up wrong. So yeah, that was a bit chaotic, but yeah, again, from my perspective, as someone who knows enough to know what kits I'm looking at, like, I could work out what was going on, like which team was where, and that was relatively easy from the top. But yeah, on that stairs you're talking about, I would love to know your opinion as a player because you had to deal with it multiple times. But the few times I went down to take take photos, holy shit! At the end of matches, it was like what I imagine, like, you know, if you were a cameraman trying to walk through the tunnel of an NFL like tunnel as the team's getting ready to come out, it was just rammed with players all trying to figure out when they can get on court, and then just people trying to push through it. Yeah, it was chaos.
I just don't understand why there was only one staircase.
Yeah.
Why was there only one staircase?
Made no sense.
Yeah.
Yeah. Anyway, what was it like as a player?
Well, point 1, it was really hot, and that was the overwhelming.
I mention that, yeah.
That was the overwhelming thing, and to the point where, you know how we always talk about Paris? We don't need to anymore. We'll just talk about Graz forever now, because it was hotter than Paris was.
Jesus.
The only good thing is that compared to Canada, like, the schedule was better, so we didn't have to play as many games because there was more time in the schedule to fit all the games in. So even though you were
per day, you mean? There was less game. Yeah.
And then also, like, because this time, you know, at least for phone, we didn't have crossover, so no one was playing multiple things. So you were only playing 2 games a day, so it wasn't too bad. But it was just like, you basically didn't need to warm up because you were already too hot before you even began jogging. You sweated.
Your muscles are already trying to survive as it is.
You, like, sweated standing still, and then you got down to courtside, and it got even hotter as soon as you got to court. And the blue box was worse than the main venue.
Yeah.
And most of the phone was at the blue box.
Yeah.
So it was just, like, horrendous. But despite the heat, like, best international tournament I've ever been to. Had a great time. Very well ran. Like, a few little niggles, but again, as would be expected at a very large tournament.
Very, very large tournament.
Yeah. And
yeah, I'll be honest. As Nick's aware, I was very pessimistic on the how to organize all of that. Yeah. So fair play. It seemed to have gone off.
I do think because you did have some concerns around, like, the organization and the rules side of things, like when there'd be rules challenging, and
I had a lot of that was one of the concerns. The other concern was I hadn't heard anything about, like, a team of organizers, and with it being across 2 separate halls, I was concerned that if any issues did arise, how you communicate how to handle stuff. But it sounds like no issues did arise, and that's probably
not
that I've heard of anyway. But yeah, that was my biggest concern. Was I hadn't heard of, like, a team of people that are meant to be organizing things, and if issues did arise, how was it going to be dealt with? my biggest concern, because I thought if they didn't know how to deal with one issue, and it kind of snowballed into a lot more later on. But it seemed to have gone all right. I think
to my knowledge, there was only one thing that was majorly raised and talked about, and I think Emily, you were aware of this, was how the rules are written for the last sudden death set in foam.
Yeah.
Because essentially 3 different countries were refereeing it in 3 different ways, from what I heard. So they had to come up with a unification of that pretty quick. But I think, like, in terms of the rule, like, you know, even the one of the rebound rule of the, you know, the ball going up in the air and you're still alive, you can do whatever. I think people contested it, but actually people were happy. Like, if that's the rule, that's fine. We can live with it until, you know, review it at the end of the tournament. We just play on.
Some countries were.
Okay, fair. All right. Say less. But yeah, I think that was the main. That was at least my main takeaways from it. I'd agree. It felt like it was really well ran, even though it felt like there was some god figure just running it without any organisation whatsoever.
Yeah,
like you just turned up
Marcus...
the day. Sorry,
got a holiday. I was just hoping. I hope Marcus got a holiday after that, because that man.
Oh, did he have a nightmare getting over it as well? Yeah. Oh, bless him. Absolutely bless him.
Yeah. I'm sure he had to
redo it. Turned out all right, considering it was made on like what?
He had to redo it 3 times. So we got it. Yeah, we got the final schedule like the day before in the end.
Yeah. I remember that. Yeah, fair play to him. That couldn't have been me.
Yeah, it was impressive. But the other things that were impressive were seeing the program, like the fact that they had a little program was really cool.
Yeah, that was really cool, to be fair.
The merch shop was really good, and it was really well ran. I was very impressed with how well it was ran. Food was pretty solid as well, because of there was food at the venue. There was some places nearby that you could take out. I know at the Blue Box as well, there was a big shopping centre nearby as well.
That's cool.
There was
there was pizzas.
Yeah, very, very intriguing setup for pizzas, but it was very cool, and very tasty pizzas. Yeah, like honestly, it was great. Yeah,
I couldn't eat them.
Yeah, but yeah, no, it was really, really good. Yeah, that's about it. Shall we go on to the actual
dodgeball? Yeah,
the actual dodgeball. That's kind of weird that a dodgeball podcast would talk about dodgeball.
Yeah, I know.
Anyway, here we are. Men's cloth. We're only half an hour in. We're what? 20 minutes behind schedule.
Yeah,
that's pretty good going. Yeah, so men's cloth pools. I guess the first thing to talk about before we get into any of the teams is a bit of how I didn't realise this at the time, but how the playoffs were organised, which was at the time I thought, yeah, this is fine, and then like I was like, no, this is chaotic as fuck. So the rules is essentially they had the sort of like your round of 16 or whatever it was. Yeah, round of 16. And it essentially went like first place, second first place, third first place, and it's like basically you do a hierarchy and you sort of spiral in. So like the best first place would play the lowest qualifying team. Second first place would play the next lowest qualifying team, etc., etc. Which obviously meant that then you could end up playing teams which were in your group that you'd already played before, which I know a lot of people have complained about before. But I think this is one of the problems with having an odd number of groups, and because they were trying to make it fair for all divisions, whether it was men's, women's, mixed, cloth or foam, I think it was probably the right thing to do, because the headache of trying to do like set first team group A plays best fourth place or whatever would have been absolute chaos. But yeah, so that's the first thing. So I put on the graphic all the cues for all the teams that qualified. I'm not telling you which was the first or best or whatever. I'll just show you where they played each other next.
Yeah,
I think that's fair.
I think for me, like, the only like first result that like surprised me was maybe Scotland above Australia, just based on last World, because Australia were pretty like sick at last Worlds. So I thought that, also given Scotland's recent form, that potentially Australia would take that from Scotland. But actually, like, well, I mean, the match itself was incredibly close. And my main points from that was just Ross Gregg catching. Just, that man was insane in that game, and how the hell he pulled off quite a few of those was just quite impressive.
He had a very good tournament, to be fair, from what I've seen. That group in its entirety was bonkers.
Yeah.
Like, pretty much every single match, other than the Ivory Coast ones, were extremely... I think there's like 1 or 2 sets in between every single match, pretty much. Yeah, that could have went... I felt really bad, because in terms of level, they probably deserved to be the group that got the extra thing through.
Yeah,
because they were so, like, it was so tight. And as you said, Nick, like, even the Scotland Austria was 13-15, I think it was in the end.
Yep.
And yeah, you had such good game. Like, you could watch any game from that entirety.
Just a summary of those results.
Madness.
Summary of those results: Sweden, Egypt 15-17, Scotland, Spain 18-16, Australia, Scotland 13-15, Egypt, Spain 15-17, Sweden, Spain 17-13. Like, even Ivory Coast, Egypt was 17-13. Scotland, Egypt was 16-all. Like, that's wild.
Yeah, that Scotland Egypt game in particular was just like insane. Like, Egypt got such a lead on it, and Scotland had to absolutely pull it back. But I mean, I was really impressed with Egypt at this tournament. I mean, we've not seen them before. They've obviously been part of WDA instead of WDBF previously. But, like, I was really impressed with them. They were absolutely solid. They were absolutely fearless in the neutral zone, and were just like, yep, no, I'm going to make sure I hit you, and I don't care what else happens in this. They were catching, like, several of them, like, just sat on their knees in the middle and just took catches from there. Didn't even bother dodging, just like, nah, I'm just going to take this ball.
They're also, like, taking them, like, up really high over their shoulder, like trapping it into the top of their shoulder, which was mental to see. I've seen that once or twice.
They were
fearless, were they? Yeah, they were fearless.
Yeah,
they paid off in reality.
Yeah,
that Scotland game was tough. Like, tough for them. It really was.
Yeah.
Yeah, Scotland had a few nasty sets. Let's say, put it nicely.
Scotland got lucky with the refs, and I'm not going to blame the refs. It was one of those ones of, again, with the balls in the air and making sure, like, there were so many things like that were going on that it was tough. But
even watching it back, you needed a few takes to really take in what happened.
Yeah.
Like, that's one where you need every center and line ref to be on the ball.
Yeah. But, you know,
it's difficult to do, because, like, at the end of the day, because a lot of the players are obviously line refs during it, and it's it's ridiculous heat, and you've been playing all day and stuff like that. Like, so
you're pausing every 5 seconds to mop the floor. Mop.
Yeah. Honestly.
Are we ready for my controversial opinion?
Yeah, go on then. Is that the controversial opinion?
The mop ruins the home viewer experience.
Yeah.
Like, the amount of games I was watching, and it was getting really into it, and then they had to stop time to do the mop, and then I got bored. Like, so many times, like, I'd just, like, stop paying attention because they were doing the mopping, and then something would happen, and I'd have to rewind the video to try and see the exciting thing that happened. But then I'd go too far, the mop would come out again, and I'd get bored again. Like, I understand it from a player, like, safety perspective, but the viewing, it's just awful.
I also think there was several times where the mop, like, they stopped play and the mop came out as a play was developing.
Yeah.
And there's so many times where I seen a switch momentum because all right, well, let me finish my point, please. where there's so many times where I'm about to see like a big counter or something. They're like, no, stop it. Mop needs to come out. And you're just like, there was bound to be a hit there. And then you just see the momentum killed and it resets. And then like I see the swing go the other way. And just like that kind of what really annoyed me as a home viewer as well. To add on to your point, where I think there is times where you kind of have to let it develop a wee bit more before you bring it out and wait for it to settle and then go, right, now we can mop it all up kind of thing. Because I just seen it ruin so many big sets in big games.
Yeah, I 100% agree. I think my thought in terms of like trying to get a solution for it is that if you think of sports like volleyball and badminton, where there is an insane amount of sweat on the floor, especially in volleyball as well, I'm pretty sure in volleyball they don't mop the floor until the change of ends. And in badminton, they don't mop the floor until change of ends either, which is like every 6 points for both of them. So badminton especially, like the amount of sweat that just is on the floor but from players is wild. I would say you just don't mop the floor till the end of the set. I get like the health and safety argument, but at the same time, like it's part of the sport in a way. Like you sort of in rugby, for example, if you have a scrum and you churn up the grass, you don't stop running over that bit of grass. Like,
I get it, because the difference would be in dodgeball, you do a lot more jumping, and if you jump and land on the sweat, you could potentially do a lot of damage to yourself.
You do a lot of jumping in badminton.
Yeah. I do get your point of view, and I do think there's a better compromise to be had than stopping it every 20 seconds. I don't think that can continue to happen.
No.
Especially whenever, like sometimes I can't remember what game it was, but I seen a referee like basically walk out in front of somebody in the middle of a counter to mop the floor. I was just like, I got so annoyed. Yeah. I genuinely got so annoyed. Because I was like, I get that you're trying to keep the players safe, but you're also impacting the game in a way that it's not fair on teams and players who are throwing everything to get the wins. I didn't like it. I really didn't like it.
Yeah,
I agree with you, Nick, that there is a probable compromise to be had somewhere.
Yeah, on the hot and cold scale of takes, I reckon that's probably lukewarm. Like, because we all agree.
It wasn't as controversial as I thought it would be.
You know, Emily, we need to get you up to speed on what our real hot takes are.
MVP. I just said it's shit.
I do think the calls for the mop to get the Spirit Award next year is a bit premature.
Let's do it.
But in the mop. Anyway, dodgeball, not mops. Yeah. I think my only other thing from the group stages was Puerto Rico being France. Do
we want to talk about Puerto Rico for a second, or?
I'm assuming that most people at home know the controversy about Puerto Rico. And do we need to cover it?
Cool. No.
If you really want to know, I'll let people who know a lot more about it talk about it.
Yeah. There were a lot of rumours swirling. Let's put it that way. I again, slightly separate topic in terms of other than teams, is one thing I really liked about the setup is having a lot more group matches. It was so nice to have so many more group matches, and I think people who've watched the Euros football will probably have a similar opinion of make the groups bigger because like you need the matches to mean something. It was nice seeing group matches actually mean something. Okay. No one likes seeing things like in the other situation where like Chile got battered by Ireland and several other teams for set difference, but that's partly to do with how you qualify for the next round. But it was nice seeing just so many more group matches, and like these matches really mean things over several days. I really enjoyed that personally.
Yeah, I do. I do think 5 groups of 5+ is a little bit overkill, and I do think we're getting to the point where you either need to like division it or have qualifiers to get into it, or a certain number of nations from each continent get into it, and they have to work out the best way of doing it, kind of thing.
Yeah.
I think 4 groups of 5 or 6 is probably where I'd have it.
8-day tournament for a non-professional sport is a lot. Like, a lot. If it was professional sport, it's different, right?
Yeah.
Like, the World Cup in football takes, what, 2-3 weeks, something like that. And, like, they're all paid mega bucks. Like, for an amateur sport to have a 8-day tournament is wild.
Yeah.
Like, so I do think there needs to be a kind of a cutoff point at some point. It's really great to see like new nations joining it, and maybe even have like an invitational sort of thing for those new nations to kind of get involved and you know, do something like that, because they did something like that in the World Cup New York with WDA, which was cool. But yeah, it was a bit much. Like, if you need 13 courts and it still lasts 19 days, 9 days or 8 days or whatever it was, yeah, there needs to be a...
It is 6 different tournaments for that long, though.
No, I get it, and I think it's great for the players that it's well spaced out and you're not cramming in like 6 matches a day sort of thing, right? But like, as I said, like, a lot of people have to take a lot of holiday to go attend, and if you want to do a bit of sightseeing and stuff before or after, there's another lock of holiday days gone and stuff like that. Like, there's a lot of real world consequences for the sport, which I think need to be taken into consideration.
Dodgeball world isn't real world? What? What?
Listen, if my company want to give me free holidays to go play dodgeball, then I'm all for it. I think that'd be great.
Yeah.
But yeah, there's a lot. I think there needs to be a think about it in terms of the long-term future of having tournaments of this size.
Yeah.
But it was really cool. But also difficult for people watching at home to have so much to watch, like, for what, 12-hour days.
Yep.
Yeah. Enough.
Yeah. But going back
Like,
to Puerto Rico versus France, yes, Puerto Rico did play well. I still think France is a funny team. I thought it was very interesting at Euros that they got through to the bronze medal match.
Yeah. And
I was kind of surprised that they did pull that off. And you go back and watch our Euros review episode for our review of that. But I think their men's team is very much like a hodgepodge of different abilities. And I think we saw that again come out in this tournament.
Yeah, it was odd. It was like France were just they got hit court a lot. They were going for catches a lot and not making them. They were also like either throwing near someone or directly at their chest, and there seemed to be no real in between. And Puerto Rico like just took all the catches. But like, it was slightly similar to Egypt. Puerto Rico did not care where anybody was at court and were just throwing things like in the neutral zone, very close to people, being like, well, I know that you're going to be dead before I'm dead, so just going to go for that. But I think it basically, like, anytime any of the guys from Puerto Rico like faked, the French guys were just like, oh shit. So I think they may have been slightly terrorized from that game.
Yeah. There were definitely some other like matches. It's coming back to me, some of the other matches that were pretty interesting. I think Pool C was pretty straightforward, though Canada and Netherlands drawing was not one I had on my bingo card.
Yeah, especially after the Canada Wales result as well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Pool D was fascinating. USA did a great job at just staying clear of the absolute quagmire below them, but Denmark beating Czechia, like, what? Denmark. And the Danes know I love them. I love them to bits. And big fans of them. But God, they did bottle it against Hungary. They had a pretty solid lead. I think they were 8-4 up, and then Hungary just went on a rampage at the end of the first half and into the second half. And I think, I think it's just a bit of experience, to be perfectly honest, for Denmark to not get frustrated by certain things, but they are growing quick as a nation in terms of how quickly their skill is getting better. They came 5th in that group, but I think that's...
took the eventual runners-up to 1913 result, which is very impressive, given how many teams struggled against USA.
Yeah, that is a testament to how tough that group was, in many ways, which also bodes well for Ireland, to be fair. After the many things we've said about Ireland.
Do you know how nervous I was going into this after watching some of the games from the last tournament? Jesus Christ. To be fair, I was a bit more confident after I went back for a training session, and I can see they tightened up a lot of stuff, and they've had some new players coming into the team, and seemed a lot more of a unit coming together. And then hopefully next tournament they'll have some other returnees, But no, I agree with you. It bodes well. They can take a bit of confidence. There's definitely times where they were slacking on their dodges and getting quite lazy, and I don't know whether it's lazy or tiredness. It's hard to tell, watching from home, especially in the heat and stuff like that. They seem to struggle with it at times. I think that's where some of the games they could have probably done better. I think the Czechia game, they were slow to adapt against Czechia. They were doing the same thing on repeat early on, and it just wasn't working, and they were a bit slow to kind of freshen things up. But yeah, again, more experience, and if they watch it back and work on it for the future, you could definitely see some potential surprise results in future tournaments.
Yeah, definitely. And for any of those going, how the hell are Hungary above Denmark when they've got a worse set difference? Another reminder that it's done on head-to-head. So if you're on the same amount of points, the first differentiator is not your set difference. It is who won the match. So Hungary beat Denmark.
Which I think is actually the better way of doing it.
Yeah, it just seems a little confusing. But and then I think there's not too much more from me to say. I just wanted to give a shout out for new teams that we saw. Obviously, Egypt. We talked about Ivory Coast. I think we'll talk a lot more about them in foam, because they were fantastic. I love Ivory Coast. So much love for them now. Germany as well were awesome. Really great to see them. Absolutely got in the vibe. Them, and I think it was, I swear it was them and the Danes, but it may have been someone else. And maybe the Dutch. I don't know. They had an absolute party at the end of their match. Yeah, it was against the Dutch. it was against the Dutch, and they did the from the Euros. The Dutch do that, they have that song where they all dance to the left and they all dance to the right.
Oh yeah,
and they everyone just invaded the court, and they were all doing this dance, and I was like, this is the most satisfying thing ever. Go find it. It's out there. I think it's on the Dutch Instagram. So that was hilarious. And then Argentina, Portugal, I think this is their first time out. They've been to Western European Championships. But them and then Argentina as well, bringing a cloth team, was awesome.
That's so sick. Their kit was so nice as well.
Yeah, it was so cool. They had their national anthem at the bottom as well, on the back, the Argentinian.
No way! That's cool.
It was really cool. Very nice kit. Very nice
so
kit.
I like my Argentinian club kit that I got with snakes in the back.
Yes.
My favourite. Yeah.
Yeah. I'm very jealous of some of the kits that people brought back, I'll be honest. I promise that at Euros in Ireland, I'll get over my anxiety of asking people to kit swap, and I actually do it. That's the promise I'm making to myself.
Hi. And they're like, we don't speak Irish. What do you want?
You slag me on catching out and piss off.
Yeah, I'm definitely not working on a catching out kit at all. Anyway, so men's cloth playoffs. Based on that all, it roughly worked out as England with the number one, then USA, then Northern Ireland, then Austria. I don't know why I've done my graphics weird, but I have lived with it. Yeah.
No comment.
Yeah, I mean, I felt really bad for Egypt because they straight away ended up drawing Austria after a really tough group, and then going, "Oh, we're gonna play Austria, fantastic, love that."
Yeah, there's a few people that had that moment, to be fair.
Yeah, yep. Yep. Puerto Rico as well, like Czechia, that demolished them. Like, wow.
Yeah, I wasn't expecting such a big win. I'll be honest. Whenever I seen it, after seeing some of the Puerto Rico results from group stage, I thought that would be a tight game.
Yep.
I didn't watch it. I'm not even sure if it was streamed at the time.
But I'm not sure. I'm not sure how large a squad they had. Because like watching some of their games, they didn't really do a lot of substitutions. So it's whether
they had 7 or 8, didn't they?
Yeah. So I think maybe by this point in the competition, maybe they were just feeling that lack of substitutions a bit.
They definitely had a mixed 6 or 7, and then a men's 6 or 7. But yeah.
Yeah, that especially in that height, you need the rotation. You need to be pumping your body with plenty of fluids to survive that week.
Yep.
God, I think I would have died just being a spectator if I'd went over in the end.
Yeah.
So no, definitely something that there's probably a lot of teams that didn't consider, that kind of hate going into it. To be fair,
yeah.
Why would you? You wouldn't really associate it with Austria, would you? It was just Austria. A mad heat wave, right?
Yeah.
Well, I mean, they do have hot summers, I think, but not like brutally hot summers. But I think like Central European summers are quite warm.
Yeah.
But the other round of 16 games, Ireland put a respectable fight up against USA. And
it started off quite tight, and then USA just pulled away. But as we've seen in all the USA games, like they were really strong unit, and I'll probably get into them a bit more as we move into the final.
Yep. And then Scotland beating France, again, another one I didn't expect. I thought France would win that based off Euros, but no, well done, Scotland.
Yeah, it was a tight game as I was expecting, though. Like, I would have said it would come down to 1 or 2 sets, to be fair.
Yeah, definitely. But I thought France would probably edge it, but no, fair cop. Quarterfinals. I mean, the biggest one that stood out to me was Australia versus Northern Ireland. My God, Northern Ireland were pushed to the end on that match. That was rough watching as a Northern Irish fan. I was sat with the Northern Irish or some of the Northern Irish while watching that game, and oh my days, it was tense. It was really rough. Yeah, Australia definitely had a better first half than the second half. Northern Ireland sort of like figured out not to just throw really hard at chests and started playing a bit more tactically. Yeah.
Who would have thought it?
It's crazy.
Who'd have thought it? I to give credit with Northern Ireland, like they are probably one of the most adaptable teams in terms of play styles compared to a lot of others. Like they could have the same starting 6 and play like either super aggressive, super defensive. Like they're happy to kind of go in between, like all sorts of style of play and just make it look seamless. Not a lot of countries kind of struggle with that.
Yeah, it was an interesting game, and Australia, like full credit to them, did a really good job of making sure every set took a good amount of time. So it wasn't easy for like that set difference makes it look kind on Northern Ireland, I think, because they really were. It was edgy to the very end. Good game though, very good game. But then I think a lot of people were then surprised in the semi-final that Austria just absolutely waltzed away with it over Northern Ireland, given like previous Euros results. But I don't know. I personally felt like, given how hard Australia had pushed Northern Ireland, that Australia would have had the upper hand. But
yeah, you wonder if they'd had like somebody else in that final, would they not have been as tired, and maybe they would have put on a better effort. But you got to beat everyone.
Yeah, that's the knockout tournament. Yeah. I mean, USA handled Scotland and England handled Canada, leading to the semi-finals of Austria versus Northern Ireland, 21-7 to Austria, which is what we were just talking about. and a very close semi-final between England and USA.
Oh, such a good game.
Yeah. I'll let you guys lead on that one. I didn't really see it, to be honest. I was more watching the Austria Northern Irish one. So, do you guys have much to say about it? Because I've been shown a lot of clips and force watched a lot of it.
Do you want to go first?
I mean, I didn't really see it because I was playing Sweden at that point, probably, and I didn't get to it. Mostly, it was just that the things that I heard from people afterwards was that there was a number of USA players that had basically some of the England players in their pockets, and they were just getting them out every time the same way, and we just weren't dealing very well with it.
Yeah, well, I thought USA really surprised me on. So they had the big arms that I was kind of expecting, but the catching ability really shocked me. And what I seen with the games as they were going along, so they weren't just relying on, making the hits. They started becoming a bit more tactical, and they were probably watching other teams and learning from the oppositions, and in terms of, not being so aggressive at times, because it worked really well in the group stage. And then they kind of had this shell shock moment against some teams where they're like, oh, they're playing really disciplined. Maybe that's something we kind of need to bring in. And yeah, it was fun watching them kind of learn how to play against England. And England had no idea, I say they had no comeback. It was 16-14 in the end. But it was fun watching USA just play smarter and smarter as the game was going on, and it kind of frustrated a lot of the English players, who I think they kind of went in expecting to dominate that game, and I think it kind of showed on court that there was just a bit of a shell shock moment at times. And I think England probably could have freshened up the lineup a bit more often than they were doing. From memory, I remember saying that in the group chat as the game was going on. But it was a great game, and one I'll probably end up watching back at some point.
From memory, I think it was 14-all, and it was in 90 seconds there at the end. And
yeah,
First point is there were some really tough refereeing decisions. It was a tough one for the referees. So mad props to the Dutch women who were refereeing it. They had
that's not a game I would have wanted to referee.
a lot of decisions. Yeah, I mean, considering the two teams playing, and then also it was one of those ones where there were a lot of very niche things happening. In particular, there was one where there was a rebound, ricochet, jump catch that then landed into a hit that person then dropped, but because the ball was still live, hit someone else as they were throwing, but the ball hadn't bounced, so the throw still counted, and 3 people are out. And it was and that was just I think in one set, that was one event that happened, and that was followed up straight away by Brett's ridiculous kick the ball up to himself, catch, and then jump off court.
I forgot about that. Oh my god!
It was
it was insane.
Yeah, it was one of those games where everything that could have come up that meant you had to know the rule book came up. And that's not just down to the players and how it was going on. That was just the physics of the way that the balls were bouncing. It was one of those really tough games. So fair play to everyone that was reffing. I think that they did the best they could, and that was it. It was still a great game all the way to the end as a result. I think one thing that was criticised or has been discussed from or people have mentioned to me since coming back from Graz was the decision making of the English players in the last set. I don't really have an opinion on it, to be perfectly honest, because I don't know what I'd do in that situation. But I think it was a 3-on-4, and it was 7 seconds or 12 seconds left to play, and England had, I think, 2 or 3 balls, and they went up to obviously attack, but they threw 2 singles at ball, I think. So it was 1 ball at one winger and 1 ball at the other winger, which I kind of get, because you kind of need 2 to win the match. But if it was 14-all, then a draw would have taking you
taking
to
it to sudden
overtime.
death.
Yeah.
Overtime, yeah.
Yeah. So I don't know. I like, especially given how tired everyone was, how much decision making had been done, like all the different things that both the teams had done tactically to throw at each other to try and win that game. I can kind of see the merit of just trying something a little bit different. But yeah, I don't know what else has been said about that or whatever. But it was a great game. Definitely go watch it. And it's set up for the final very nicely. What a game that was. This one did go to overtime, if I remember right.
Yes.
Yeah. Wow. We were treated some absolute bangers of matches on that final day.
Yeah.
Finals day was sick.
Yeah. Yeah, it was just like, because I think it felt like at times like one team was about to start like taking advantage and absolutely like steamrolling the other, and there was just kept being a momentum shift between the two sides, which was really good because it made it so interesting. There was definitely a couple of players either side that basically were being targeted and weren't being able to be part of the game, but like the rest of the team on the court basically made up for it.
Yeah, I fully agree with the targeting, because I think what USA done early on too often was target. I think it was Cock, on a regular basis, and his dodging was insane, especially in the early doors, and that's where Austria started taking advantage, because they basically knew who they were going to throw at, and it was just making sure that they were fitting them off with the really quick releases on the post throw, and that was working so effective. Once USA started going like, right, he's not going out, we need to start bidding off the rest of the team, it then kind of brought the momentum in their favor. And then it kind of started becoming this really back and forth affair for the entire game. And it was so good to watch. Like the athleticism shown on both sides throughout that game, in terms of the dodging, the like dodge into a release, like the survivability of like so many people was incredible. And I really, really enjoyed that. What was the other thing I want to say? Oh, the pre-throw timings as well, from Austria. USA really didn't know how to handle that, especially in the early stages of the game. Austria definitely took advantage with that, because I don't think the USA had really utilized that side of the game as often, and maybe a bit of an inexperience kind of shows with that. But yeah, that's where Austria were edging it, especially in the early stages.
I feel like it was a match that had a bit of everything, from some of the really cagey tactical dodgeball that we've seen at Euros in some of the finals, to like full-on chaos, like just using athletic ability, covering your teammate, keeping your eyes on a swivel and your head on the swivel, like picking up balls, ball retrievers like all over the place, making sure balls get on court quickly. Like it had something for everyone. And like the fact that we got to an overtime set, like, was it overtime sudden death or was it just overtime? I can't remember. Either way,
Jimmy, I'm assuming you mean overtime, right?
Yeah, but then did it? I think it just was overtime.
No, it didn't go to.
Okay,
no. Austria won the final set comfortably.
Yeah, like
I think it was like five players on court. Whenever they won it.
Yeah.
But the best set, it was a 10-all, and USA. Most teams would be a bit kind of terrified to start going for the catches with such little time. And I think it was 4-2 Austria. USA take two massive catches, one off of I think it was a pre-throw, and then Leitinger throws a single on his own at the other side of the court, thinking that the player wasn't paying attention. He takes that catch, switches it for 4-on-2, and I was like, "Oh my god, Austria are actually gonna throw this away." Quite literally. Like most teams in that situation, whenever you're 4-2 up, feeling comfortable, and you've just given away two massive catches to the opposition, most people crumble. Like you gotta give credit to Austria, and they really showed experience to go, right, that set's done. Like recompose ourselves and go take this gold medal. And they've done it in style, to be fair to them.
Yeah. But yeah, it was a really good game. I suggest that if you didn't watch it, you definitely go and watch it. And we should move on to the rest of cloth.
Yeah, I was just gonna like we've talked so much. We've got so much to talk about. Like, because we haven't even done the final placings, but Austria finishing top, USA finishing second, Northern Ireland beating England in the third, fourth playoffs. That was a game I didn't watch. I'll be perfectly honest. I haven't got back to watching. But I can say that the result was 2014 Northern Ireland's favour. So could have been an interesting game. Not sure, but very well done. Czechia once again finishing fifth. So Denmark, who ended up finishing 21st, beating fifth place in the group stages, tells you how wild these competitions are. I don't have much to say on the placings, to be honest, just because this is the first time we've seen pretty much all the European countries play in this, and a very good number of non-European countries join, which is really good to see. But the only other thing I was going to say is I just feel like Austria have a different gear when it comes to Worlds, because Euros, I know they've like struggled with the last couple of years facing Northern Ireland and England, and having like, you know, other than their women's and mixed, like they've been struggling a bit in the men's, but I think back in Canada they did really well, and it was a debate whether they did really well because there was no England and Northern Ireland, it was just GB. But I think this is proof that, you know, having it in your own country helps, but also they definitely kicked it up a gear. So well done.
Sure.
And that is all for this podcast, or this episode at least. Please do remember to give us a like and subscribe. If you have any thoughts or comments, feel free to send them into the Instagram. We are catching out on Instagram. I think, we do have a Facebook as well. You can find us on there if you're still using that social media. Otherwise, give us a follow on or subscribe on YouTube. Find us on Spotify or wherever you listen to your podcast. And get in touch. Let us know what you think. And let us know what else you want us to cover, if there's anything out there that you feel like we've missed in the dodgy news so far. And we look forward to seeing you on the next one.